Talking more, yeah.
Talking.
You guys are talking.
We're talking
Oh, really?
A lot of talkers.
I would agree with that.
This podcast is called Erase the Filter.
Erase the filter.
Erase the filter.
My favorite guitar player is Mark Rebo, who most people know him from playing on Tom Waits albums. But he also plays in a performance space in New York City called The Stone, which is run by John Zorn, who's a composer of a zillion songs a night. So the first time I went, Mark Rebo was playing there, and he was doing his thing, but they also have free improv nights where John Zorn, it's called their rent party. And he just has like 10 guys, and they're all in the basement, which is the green room, and he sends people up. I don't know how he picks them, but people come up in different configurations, and they just free improv.
Scott Bookman is a veteran musician in my hometown scene in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He's a very talented guitarist, a staunch supporter of local musicians, and a true artist in every sense of the word. In the summer of 2014, I was itching to produce some concerts. I had a new band and wanted to build a series with other artists who were pushing some boundaries. I talked with Scott about what I was thinking, and he proposed an idea for a free improvisational experimental format that we called Evolution of Sound. It was inspired in part by his visits to the Stone.
So I always thought that was really cool. And then I went to the Winter Jazz Fest, and they actually had a thing called the Round Robin, where they did kind of what we did in the Evolution of Sound. And my logic was, there's no way that Lancaster's ready for a full night of one band playing free improv music. But if we could pull off the Evolution of Sound, people would really like it.
So is it a hybrid of those two ideas?
Yeah.
The Evolution of Sound was a concert that included 10 musicians who may or may not have ever met or played together before. The instrumentation varied from horns to strings to synthesizers, guitars and drums, and even some homemade instruments. The format was a round robin where two musicians played at a time, with one rotating out and another rotating in every 5 minutes until the very end, when all 10 musicians would perform at once. The first show was held in October 2014 at the Candy Factory, a co-working space in the heart of downtown Lancaster. Here's a little bit of what happened that night. But when you put 10 people who've never played together into a room and tell them the order in which they're going to play literally minutes before they go on, it could be a train wreck.
And sometimes it was, but for the most part, I would say it wasn't. It was far less a train wreck than it was.
Absolutely. But as a producer, there were challenges around making that.
But I think that's part of the, like, because I might know you and know that you play bass, but I never played music with you. And I think that happened a lot. Like, oh, Dave Schaefer, I've known you for years, but I've never played with you. So now it's like...
The first piece for me was, how do you actually pull a show off like this where you don't know what's going to happen?
Right, especially that first one.
Yeah.
Well, and we had to teach the audience what they were going to hear and how to hear it.
Well, but the second piece follows along with that thinking, which is that Lancaster actually was open to the idea, accepted the idea, and then it grew. So it wasn't just like, oh, we've seen that. That's fine.
Right.
You know, like, it happened once, it was interesting, and then you move on.
Well, and the cool thing is, if you have 10 musicians and each one of those has 3 to 4 friends, it's also easier to make the audience.
True. Yeah.
And we always had really great audiences because people were blown away by it, just as much as the musicians were.
Yeah, nobody knows.
You know, a show would end and all the musicians were like Blood Brothers or something, and blood musicians. And everyone was hugging. It was a really cool thing, and people would stop and talk to everyone like, "Oh, you are my favorite tonight," or talk to me and you like, "Thanks so much for doing this." Like,
yeah,
it was unbelievable. I didn't know what I didn't know.
We hosted several Evolution of Sound concerts at the Candy Factory over the 2 years that followed, along with a few other ambient and experimental shows mixed in. Kyle Uditsky and Nick Christensen from the band Noit joined the crew to help run the shows, and local filmmaker and VJ Steve Ulrich complemented the music with improvised visuals, mixing a library of found video clips, visual effects, and live images of the musicians being captured in real time during the performance. The shows grew from 10 improvising musicians to a full-on audio and visual experience. But by the middle of 2016, the Candy Factory was being renovated and I needed to take a break. Scott continued producing The Evolution of Sound and continues to this day in other venues around the area with Fritz Schroeder, who promotes concerts under the name Series 42.
I think one of the coolest things we ever did is we did Evolution of Sounds at the Roots and Blues Festival, which
that was a trip.
Anybody that knows what the Evolution of Sound sounds like, it's definitely not Roots and Blues. So it was funny watching the people that were in the room, that very first one, and you would get up there and tell them what they were going to see.
Yeah.
It was easier for them to get. But if you came into that room 3 people into it and you thought you were going to see someone playing a Stratocaster and playing Stevie Ray Vaughan stuff, and what you got was an oboe with Kate playing marbles in a stainless steel bowl, you were probably going to go find another place to be.
It was fascinating. Yeah, for context, the Roots and Blues Festival is a 2 or 3 day annual festival of roots music and blues music, essentially. And that's a pretty broad spectrum of what they bring to town, but it's all very conventional music.
I don't think free jazz fits anywhere in that.
I don't think so. And I think that what Evolution of Sound did was completely genreless. You know, it just was whatever. And so it was really interesting to watch people just kind of walk in and look around and try to figure out, like, watch their brain try to comprehend.
Because Steven was showing his crazy movies too.
I never would have imagined that for me when I was dreaming up the idea of a concert series.
Yeah, I never imagined that it would happen in Lancaster, and then I never would have imagined that it would still be going, and people love it.
Oh, it's a thing. Like,
people love to see it. People love to play it.
Yeah,
play in it. You know.
Well, the first show was, it was like, wow, this could really be something amazing, and I think it really progressed from there. You know.
Well, I think for you it was mainly an excuse for you to go buy more PA gear. Lights.
It worked because I did.
Yeah, right.
Scott Bookman's love for free improvisation wasn't limited to producing and performing in the Evolution of Sound. For years, he hosted Wednesday night sessions at his house that led to a series of releases with another local musician, Old Sleeper, under the name Primitive Agriculture, and eventually developed into his current band, which is called the Vivian Lee Documentary.
Okay, I was always really good friends with Stephanie Bennett. Her girlfriend is Hadassah Wilson. So I've known them, and then one night we were at Telus, and Stephanie goes, aren't you two friends on Facebook? So we friended each other on Facebook right then and there, but we were out. So the next day I was looking at her page, and she was posting songs. She's 28, so it was like hip-hop songs, Lady Gaga, and she would slow down these tunes and just have real simple, turn major key songs to minor. And I'm like, holy hell, this is incredible. Like, her voice was great. The next time I saw her, I was like, no one said you were an amazing singer. So that was just that. And then one night I got a message from Hadassah that said, okay, I have these vocals, you play the guitar, will you be in a band with me, or can you help me be in a band? Stephanie says, at least we'll have fun. That was that. And I'm blown away by that, because I'm like, wow, she's asking me to be in a band with her. She's an incredible singer.
Right.
So I message back and go, well, I do this free improv thing on Wednesday nights. We don't have a bass player right now, but it's 2 guitars and drums, and we had an ad in the paper in Craigslist to find a bass player. So she goes, well, I come from a background when I had to go to church a lot when I was younger, where we would go on Sunday and have to free improv stuff over the church band, so I can do that. So she came over, and I think the first thing we did was maybe a Taylor Swift tune that I had already turned into a slower thing, just like she does.
Yeah. And
then the second thing, she goes, okay, let's just try a free improv thing, and it was kind of like a minor blues. And we record everything, because she's making it. She would just look at the floor. and listen to what we were playing, and then she would look up and just start singing. And that second or third song that we ever did with her is on our album.
Wow.
And so then that's how we started just doing all that. And like she says, even now, I thought this was just going to be a hobby, something for the fun of it. And now we've made an album. We just recorded 2 other songs.
So things are really starting to open up.
So then we said, are we going to be Hello Counselor? And when we were picking the name for Hello Counselor, I had seen the name Vivian Lee Documentary because I was watching a YouTube video, and that was a video on the side. And I made a mental note, that'd be a cool name for a band. No band's called it Documentary. But the Hello Counselor guys weren't going for it. They were like, you're crazy, no.
I think it's fantastic that you have a band called the Vivian Lee Documentary.
Well, the first time we ever played at Modern Art, at the end of the night, we did our 2 sets, and this guy comes up and he goes, hey, you guys are really great. I got to tell you, though, I came here because I thought they were going to show the Vivian Lee documentary, a documentary about Vivian Lee, but I liked your music so much that I stayed. And I said to that guy, okay, nobody else should even say anything to us because no one's going to top that.
Meet me at my door. Meet me at my door. We could linger for a while. I could play with my keys for a while. For a while. For a while.
That's a little bit of the song Meet Me from the latest full-length album by the Vivian Lee Documentary called Uprooted. That's the song that came out of the band's first Wednesday night improv jam. Find that album and more from the Vivian Lee Documentary on Bandcamp and all of the usual digital music outlets.
For a while and smile.
I love what we did with the evolution of sound over the years, and I've recently had the opportunity to produce shows at the 6th floor, a venue space at the top of the Candy Factory where the evolution of sound was born. But I wanted to try a new experimental improv format that we called the Now. Our first attempt came in March of 2018. Here's a little taste. For this set, we had 4 musicians on stage, each assigned a number 1 to 4. A TV screen faced the musicians, and for 40 minutes, different configurations of numbers appeared on the screen indicating which musician should play. Evolution of Sound organizers Scott and Kyle, along with Evolution veterans Rodney Martin and Nick Bircher, played this inaugural performance of The Now. I'm going to leave you with sounds from that performance, along with reaction from some of those in the audience that night.
There was an extensive amount of chaos, but there was moments where it came together and it sounded like music as most people know it.
I think as a musician, just sometimes I feel discomfort for people because I don't do a lot of improvisation. So I'm sitting there listening and thinking like, oh, are they feeling awkward right now? Or is this going somewhere that they want to go? I mean, obviously I don't know where it's going, but Yeah, so that's the only challenge for me is that probably. But sonically, it was very cool.
I enjoyed it more as it went on, so I don't know if that's because I was getting more like used to it or sort of settling in, or if it's actually that it improved. I mean, if they were sort of settling in, but once the guitarist switched to acoustic, that's when I really felt like, oh, okay, this is good. So I don't know
there was a
why
moment
that is, but I was like, yeah, this is, so yeah.
I don't know if you might not know this, but there's a TV screen down there and there's numbers on the TV screen, and so different combinations are appearing for a certain number of minutes, but it's not set. So one might be 2 minutes, and the other might be 4 minutes or 8 minutes.
It's an admirable thing. They went from here, where they walked up, as you explained, and there was really nothing there was nothing preconceived. But then they all arrived at a place, if you will, that, they did it. They made it. It was a wonderful thing.
An improvisational set, you could see the musicians kind of discovering each other throughout the set, and there were certain points that were very free form, and you could tell maybe one of the musicians took over a bit, and then there were parts where they really came together, and it was maybe more, I would say, more with a traditional rhythm and parts like that. So the two interspersed with the free form, and then parts where they came together and into a rhythmic part was really interesting. Yeah, and it was a good show and definitely kept my interest.
This is Jason Mundock. Thanks for listening to Erase the Filter. Show notes can be found at erasethefilter.com, and if you have feedback about the show, feel free to email me at jmundok, jmundok, @gmail.com. And always remember,
open your mind,
Be yourself.
erase the filter.